One move decides this entire game, and Niemann never sees it coming. This is Grandmaster Knockout. In the left corner, Niemann. And across the board, Liren. You clicked to see Niemann take on Liren, and you're going to get a brawl. Stay till the end, because the move that ends it looks like a blunder, until it isn't. Let's get it on. Niemann, pawn to e4. Liren, pawn to e5. Niemann, knight to f3. Liren, knight to c6. Niemann, bishop to c4. Liren, knight to f6. Niemann, pawn to d3. Liren, bishop to e7. Niemann, knight to c3. Liren, castles kingside. Niemann, pawn to a3. Liren, pawn to d6. Niemann, bishop to e3. Liren, bishop to e6. Niemann, knight to d5. Liren, queen to d7. Niemann, bishop to b3. Liren, bishop to d8. Niemann, pawn to c4. Liren, knight to g4. Niemann, castles kingside. Liren, knight takes a 3. Niemann, pawn takes a 3. Liren, knight to e7. Niemann, pawn to d4. Liren, knight to g6. Niemann, knight to c3. Liren, queen to e7. Niemann, king to h1. Liren, pawn to c6. Niemann, queen to d3. Liren, bishop to b6. Niemann, rook to add 1. Liren, rook to add 8. Niemann, pawn to d5. Liren, bishop to c8. Niemann, pawn takes c6. Liren, pawn takes c6. Niemann, bishop to a4. Liren, queen to c7. Niemann, pawn to b4. Liren, pawn to a6. Niemann, bishop to b3. Liren, pawn to h6. Niemann, knight to g1. Liren, bishop to e6. Niemann, knight to g2. Liren, queen to a7. Niemann, rook to f3. Liren, knight to h4. Niemann, rook to g3. Liren, pawn to f5. Niemann, knight to a4. Liren, pawn to f4. Niemann, knight takes b6. Liren, pawn takes g3. Niemann, pawn takes g3. Liren, queen to a7. Niemann, pawn takes h4. Liren, queen takes h4, check. Niemann, king to g1. Liren, queen to f2, check. Niemann, king to h1. Liren, bishop to g4. Niemann, rook to d2. Liren, queen to h4, check. Niemann, king to g1. Liren, queen to e1, check. Niemann, king to h2. Liren, rook to f2. Niemann, pawn to c5, check. Liren, king to h7. Niemann, bishop to d1. Liren, bishop to f3. Niemann, knight to g3. Liren, rook takes d2. Niemann, queen takes d2. Liren, queen takes d2. Niemann, bishop takes f3. Liren, pawn takes c5. Niemann, pawn takes c5. Liren, queen takes a 3. Liren delivers the finishing blow. Niemann is down. Want to see Liren get knocked off the throne? The next fight on screen is the one that does it. Tap it and watch how. Subscribe so you never miss a knockout.